Sure, it's been a testing couple of weeks for the club, but have you seen the recent time for Leicestershire?
Yeah, Jack, it's been an incredibly difficult period for Leicestershire County Cricket Club. Obviously, our head coach, Paul Nixon, and the club come into a mutual agreement whereby both have gone their own ways. It's very difficult to comment on that because we've respected Paul Nixon's advisors and the club's advisors, and we've agreed and legally bound that we can't comment on that. What I will say is, I thank Paul for his services for the club, both as a player and a head coach, and I'm delighted he's got a job now in the T10 in America, which is a real emerging cricket nation. So it's tough, it's hard, it's been really difficult for lots of people at the club. We now, however, have to move on. We've got to look forward, and it's very, very difficult for the club, and we've got a lot of work to do. But what I would say is there is a huge amount going on behind the scenes that a lot of the supporters and members and partners won't actually see. And that work is actually really exciting for Leicestershire County Cricket Club. So whilst we've got this period of change, the club is evolving into a far stronger business than probably it's ever been.
And a few of those changes that will evolve, if we talk on the field, in terms of personnel, there's a few current players that have really impressed this season that will be extending their futures here. There'll be incomings as well. How, the work we're going on behind the scenes with Claude Henderson to get these people in and a squad that can really compete next year? Yeah,
I think as I mentioned at a members forum prior to the AGM, I talked about the 5-year strategy. Year 1 was mitigation, year 2 was emergence, and this year is about building that team. And I think we've begun to see some real exciting talent emerge through Leicestershire's first team, and also 1 or 2 players that are now showing their worth through the academy and the pathway as well, and I think we'll see more of that going forward. So I'm really excited, and I know I don't want to give too much away, but I know we've got a couple of contract extensions to announce very, very shortly. I know Claude and the cricket pillar behind the scenes have got 1 or 2 players' signatures pretty close to the paperwork, which I'm excited about. So I think, if you look at our 5-year plan, this building phase then turns into growth next year. So I'm really excited about it, and for me, what we're beginning to see is definitely a brighter future for the club.
And we've seen that certainly in the Cads Championship this season, with the form side currently lying second at the moment, the rise of the likes of Rishi Patel and Josh Hull, one of the Leicestershire's own through the academy. How much have you been impressed with that kind of thing this season? Yeah,
definitely. I think the Championship performances have been great. Started well at Yorkshire, and maybe a bit fortunate in 1 or 2 of them, but the other way maybe we're bad luck in the others. So it kind of balanced itself out. But I really want to pay tribute to Lewis Hill as captain. Sort of his diligent work behind the scenes, the effort he's put in as the new captain for the club is tremendous, and of course the players around him that are support him in that journey. And of course then Alfonso has had a whole winter with the bowling unit. James Taylor as well has been brought in. So the work that's been done behind the scenes is really, really good, and I think we're beginning to see the fruits of that labour. There is still a long way to go, and I'm hopeful, of course, but the lads are giving it all, and I wish them every success. And of course then we've got the 50 over tournament coming up, and I'm hopeful about that. Last year we qualified, so I want to do that again. The desire for us to succeed, and I can talk about where we were pre-COVID. If you want, I can go into sort of the history of the club and what that looks like, and it's quite alarming when you look at it. I don't want to go back to that. I want the club to move forward and move forward in the right direction with the right processes, the right systems, the right personnel behind the scenes that can really drive this club forwards.
And you mentioned the foundations that have gone, you know, across the pillars in the club, particularly in cricket, with the right personnel to form that structure. But you alluded to there the sort of historical direction of the club, and you've been drilling down into those figures and how much you want to be a catalyst now to change those times.
Yeah, do you know what? I kind of looked back prior to COVID, and I looked at some of the stats, both cricket-wise on the field and financially, as to where we are. I took a little snapshot, and you know, I scribbled it down. And in the county championship, from a period of 2009 to 2019, because COVID 2021, it surprised me a little bit and really hurt. We finished last 7 out of 11 times in that tournament. And the other 4, once you averaged it out, we actually finished 7th in the division, so not much higher than last but one or one above that. So 11 years of that in terms of the county championship, for me, not good. That's not acceptable. It's a real poor performance over that decade, if you like. Then I did some further work around the one-day tournaments, not the T20, I'll come to that, but the one-day tournaments. And again, it was surprising for me to sort of see in that 11 years, those 11 seasons, we didn't qualify once. We did not qualify once in that whole period of time, which is really painful, really hurts you as a business and as a sports club. Again, not acceptable. And if you worked out the average where we were in the league, you kind of hope, okay, well, maybe 3rd or 4th. But no, we weren't. We were 6th or 7th. Then T20, as you know, we've got a tremendous heritage in T20. Now, what I would say in the T20 is granted, we won it in 2011. Absolutely brilliant, magnificent for Leicestershire. And for me, maybe that would have been the period, the catalyst for change for us to go on and kick on. But when you look at it and you analyse it, it wasn't that catalyst change, which was really, again, upsetting. And again, I looked at the stats, and T20, we finished, out of 11 seasons, we didn't qualify in 9 of them. Again, not really acceptable. We've got to be as a better club than that. So that period, 2009 to 2019, you can sort of see on the field performances were not where they were. Now, we can't accept that. That's not acceptable as a business. We've got to do better than that. If we do better than that, then people will support us. More businesses will get involved. We'll be more successful as a sports club. Then when you look at sort of the financial snapshot, and I just did a little snapshot of a period, I think it was 2010 to 2014. In that period of time, our cash pillars told me that we lost nearly £700,000. Nearly £700,000. And just take a moment to think about that. That is not sustainable as a business. That can't carry on. So if we carried on with that model of finishing, bottom in the division, not qualifying, losing money around, nearly £1 million or whatever it is, well, we're not going to be here. We're just not going to survive. And there comes a point where you have to draw the line and evolve and change as a business. And I think here and now, Leicestershire is at that crossroads, and we've got to change it. We've got to change how we move forward as a business.
So what is the club doing then in those different pillars to make sure the club is sustainable across all those different aspects?
Yeah, there is no silver bullet, let me tell you. If I could flick a switch that meant we could change all that, I would do, but we can't. So we've got to look at all the different elements of the business. Cricket, we've kind of alluded to there, that getting processes in place, changing our direction a little bit, because that decade, we can't have that happening again, because if we are, then I'm not sure we'll be here. So that has to change. Bringing talent through our pathways, great that we've got somebody like Rayan Ahmed, Josh Hall coming through, Rishi Patel, brilliant. How their performances, attracting people like Sol Bunninger. I could go on, and I don't want to miss some of the players out, because they're all kind of helping in their own little way. Louis Kimber, our overseas of Ian Mulder, Peter Hanscom, are all kind of driving Leicestershire forward, and we've got to continue to build on that and actually look to get promoted, look to qualify, look to win a tournament. If we don't, then what's the point? We're a sports business, we're a results business. So coming back to your question about how do we make that sustainable, how do we do that? Well, we'll talk about the master plan, and for me, that is the huge game changer for Leicestershire, and we'll come back to that. But then there are other parts of the business. So, I talk about commercial. Last year, it was great to see we broke our greatest ever revenue here at the club. So we broke through a little barrier in the 5 million mark, which is brilliant. As I say, sanity and vanity around profit and all those sorts of things. However, getting through that barrier was an important stage. Costs have gone up, as we've seen in the economic climate. So it's become even more challenging. But what I would say is commercially, we've seen some real good, encouraging signs throughout the commercial operation. Membership up, increased numbers buying advance on T20, increased numbers on our conferencing and banqueting. All those sorts of things all add up a little bit to the better equation that we are. So the more we can continue to do that, and the more we can get people attracted to Leicestershire, the better. So, commercial sponsorships are up. I think they're up by about 10% in comparison to last year. And we've got to continue to grow those. So commercially, it's huge. You can probably hear a bit of beeping that's going on behind me. And that the Tom Jones concert. When we had Elton John, that was successful. So getting Tom Jones here is brilliant for the club. We've got to build on those commercial opportunities. I think we've got the 80s night, which I think is doing really well. There's sort of 700-800 people coming to that night, so that's growing as well. So all those things, that commercial operation has got to drive more and more revenues, more and more people to Leicestershire County Cricket Club. I could go on company-wise. The CPA, the County Partnership Agreement that's coming from the ECB, which is a great piece of work, puts pressure on first-class counties, puts pressure on businesses to actually deliver standards. Now, we've got to meet those standards, and that requires a huge amount of effort from different parts of the business. So, for example, one of our standards has been the development of the changing rooms. We've lost the boardroom, so we've lost one of our maybe revenue generators, but we've had to meet the standards. So the whole company aspect of the business has got to get better, and has got better, but that's got to continue, that's got to evolve, that's got to develop, and we've got to operate. The pillar that you work in, the communications, how we communicate to people. Fox's TV has got to become increasingly important for us, and we've got to evolve, and it's all part of this evolution of the club to get to a better place, so that we don't have that decade that we've just had, finishing last, not qualifying, 700k losses, things like that. We can't allow to happen.
Well, you mentioned there that the membership in Leicestershire is something that's gone up. I think we broke the 2,000 membership mark this season. How important is that kind of support to Leicestershire, as you've mentioned there?
Huge. I've said it time and time again. They are the lifeblood of Leicestershire County Cricket Club. They're the people that turn up week in, week out to support the club. I get their frustration. I get their passion for the club. You know, I'm a Leicester lad. I came here when I was 6, 7 years old, so I get it. We need more of those. We need more people to get behind the club and support the club. What has been really hurtful is a lot of personal, negative, quick to criticise comments. You know, this club is working tirelessly to get where it needs to get to. We need supporters, we need people to help us, back us. We've got to look forward. We've got to look at how we get better. You know, and we're not going to get everything right. I wish we could, but we've got to learn, and you've got to help us to get places where we need to get to if we are to survive and prosper as a business.
And talking of growing that support, I think one way that we've been doing that is the great work the community team have been doing, particularly with the schools day recently. What did you make of that day and the work the community team are doing to attract more and more faces to Leicestershire? Yeah,
the community team, much like every pillar in this business, because again, if you look back at that decade, has to change, has to evolve, and has to change with society out there as well. And the community pillar has gone under a huge amount of change, and I think over the coming weeks and months you'll see a lot of announcements of how that will be structured going forward. And in putting that structure in place, it aims to build on things like we did at the Durham game, where we had 1,300 kids here in the ground. The pitch level kind of went up a little bit, but what a brilliant thing to see 1,300 children from all different backgrounds here for a county championship game. And I know the community team are buzzing about that, hard work behind the scenes. We've got to build on that now. We've got to develop that. We can't say, we've done it, great, thumbs up. We've actually got to evolve. And this is where our community pillar have got to be. They've really got to become the fabric of our community and attract people to make sure that cricket is a game for all. Not easy, and that's again not going to be done by the flick of a switch. It's actually a generational thing, a constant, sustained, planned approach to really forging those links. So I know recently we had Bangladeshi community. I think we had refugees come to the ground. You know, things like dynamos, you know, activity around the pitch. You know, for me, we've got to be doing lots and lots and lots of those things. And as I say, I know a lot of work has gone behind the scenes with regards to our community, and you'll see some amazing announcements around that. And I'm really excited about that aspect of the club as well. And those, the community and commercial, kind of have to work hand in hand to help each other. You know, we need bums on seats, we need people supporting us, we want to see packed houses. So that element has got to work together. And I think in the past, maybe they've all been kind of little islands. Now it's that joined up thinking of how those teams work together. And that's where the leaders of the 6 pillars come in. They've got to communicate, they've got to work together to make sure that, again, Leicestershire can elevate and transcend from where it was to where it needs to get to be a successful business.
And talking of that community outreach, we'll see quite a lot of that as we take Leicestershire on the road, so to speak, with the Oakham trip that's coming up, with a lot of community activities going on across the 4 days. How important is that game for Leicestershire? I know it's been in the pipeline for a while. Yeah,
I think ever since I arrived at the club during COVID, I wanted to bring back some sort of festival. And this is first time, I think, for 16 years that we'll have gone to Oakham in a festival of this nature. So I'm really pleased about it. I'm hopeful. My expectations are kind of mixed because it's the first time in a long time. So we'll see how it evolves and see how it develops. I'm also really pleased that we're going to Kibworth for a 50 over. And I know ticket sales for those are doing really well as well. So for me, it's about taking Leicestershire out there, and if we can, and it depends on the standard of the pitches. You know, another club north of Leicestershire has been in chats with me about how we could maybe emulate what we're doing at Kibworth. So those conversations are ongoing. So yeah, I think community and being intrinsic to the community is hugely important, cannot be underestimated. I think, you know, if we looked at ourselves in the mirror in the past, maybe we were a bit of an island. We kind of do these things and hope people come. We can't do that anymore. Again, evolution, change, getting better at what we do. A lot of work to be done, and that's not being critical of the community team that we've had, because they've done some great work. We've just got to push those boundaries, excuse the pun, further and better to really develop Leicestershire County Cricket Club.
And they're two real fixtures to look forward to there, including, also we've got the England women's game as well to mention.
Yeah, wow.
Ashes fever at the moment.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big one for the club, isn't it?
Yeah, women's cricket. We can talk about women's cricket. And I think we've obviously got England appearing here against Sri Lanka. And we've got to demonstrate to the ECB and the outside world that we can put on international fixtures. So we need people to come and support us. We need people to come and back us and be part of that game. And I'd urge our members, spread the word about England is actually appearing in Leicestershire. And of course, the Ashes excitement will hopefully help that. I know Commercial are working on something really quite juicy, quite tasty at the moment, that will also be a huge opportunity for Leicestershire. So fingers crossed we can get that over the line, and that will be really good for our community. I can't say two more at this stage. But yeah, you know, all those things outside of the county championship, the T20s, the 50 over tournaments, we want people to support them. We need people to back them, because they're huge revenue generators for the club. You know, Tom Jones with 10,000 people here is incredibly important to us, and we'll look to get another concert next year. You know, so those things are massive. I went off on one there, but coming back to women's cricket, yeah. I think in Leicestershire, what I've witnessed the past couple of years is a real mushrooming of women's cricket. That is tremendous. And we've seen women come and support Leicestershire for a long time. I think those numbers are increasing. But we've also seen a couple of double headers that have been really successful. We've learnt a bit about them, how we can make them better, and we'll look to do that next year. I'm in conversations with Claude and the community team to see how we can shift the women's team into the cricket pillar. Can't be done overnight, and we've got to work out how that would be delivered through our cricket pillar. But those conversations have started. I'm really excited about that, and I think future most definitely bright for women's cricket here at Leicestershire, whether it be international games, Leicestershire women and girls playing at Grace Road. So that's only going to grow and get better and better and better.
And just finally, then we talked a little bit about the master plan. You have the news today about the advancement with the Working Party. Can you provide a little bit of an update for us on where that sits? Yeah,
the master plan, I think, as I said earlier, is the game changer. We, in simple terms, we could probably survive on what we do here as a business, but eventually we'll get left behind. We won't be able to compete. So we've got to look at ways in which we as a cricket club can win matches, can contribute to cricket, and can thrive and prosper. And as I sort of said at the members forum around the master plan, that project allows us to do that. Those conversations not just happened overnight, they've been going on for 18 months with all sorts of different individuals guiding us, giving us a steer, professional guidance, making sure we're on the right path, because you can't just go, yeah, let's build a hotel. You've got to talk to relevant individuals from the City Council to the ECB to the community. So we got to a stage whereby we've announced the master plan, which is brilliant. now what's really exciting is, we're still in this consultation period, is that we've had a lot of people chat to us. So we've created a working party, so a group of people that come together on a regular basis to work out how we go forward. I can't do it alone. I need individuals to help and support me, and I support them on getting to that vision that we want. So the working party that we've announced very recently includes the City Council, so it's a great partner with us, includes the ECB, great partner with us, local businesses. So bringing those people together brings a lot of knowledge on how we go forward. Now, what I will say is we've had 2 or 3 conversations, very exciting conversations, with 1 or 2 commercial partners with regards to a quarter of the ground, how we could develop a quarter of the ground. That will be phase 1. That will be what we as a working party effectively focus on to try and develop. Now, what I can give you a bit of an exclusive around is we're now chatting to an independent company that will stress test those proposals for us. So in other words, we've got a proposal that's kind of come in. We'll have a buffer between Leicestershire and the proposals to actually test whether it's viable, whether it looks good, should we go down that route. We're in that process at the moment of deciding that independent company. What will happen is, I think, come October, November, December time, we'll probably look to have a commercial partnership with an organisation that will transform phase 1 of the ground. And in so doing, that then, again, I can't give too much away at this stage, but that will then generate income that comes back into the club that then can be reinvested on facilities, can be reinvested on players, coaches, all those staff, all those sorts of things that allow the business to grow, evolve, compete and get better. As I say, I don't want a decade of decline. I don't want a decade of not achieving. We must change as a business. We must do things differently if we are to become successful by the end of this next decade. If we don't, it's very scary. The picture, because losing 700k in that kind of example, that's not sustainable as a business.
Are you confident then that all of these things will come to fruition?
Of course, it's gonna require a huge amount of work, a monumental amount of work to get us to that point. I am extremely confident of the board that we have in place. You know, we had the SGM recently, 1 or 2 changes. Really, it's a really good board that we've got. That's important. That stability at that top level is important. Staff underneath, great staff underneath. We've got to work hard. We've got to go beyond our comfort zones, and that's not easy to achieve what we want to achieve. We've got to change structure of the business in certain parts to get better. Am I confident? Absolutely. You know, and that's the reason I'm here, to change the direction, the fortunes of Leicestershire County Cricket Club. As I've sort of said, I'm here to protect and develop this club. That is number 1 and 2, or equal priorities of what we must do. So protection of the club, because I don't want anything to happen to it. We've got to do things in the right way. Development, we have to develop as a business. It's not going to happen overnight. Hard work is going to get us to where we need to get to. But as I've always sort of said, again, we need people to support us, to back us. Some of the decisions that are made are tough. Some of the decisions might seem a little odd, but they're all in the interests of Leicestershire getting to where we need to get to. At the end of the day, yeah, we want successful cricket. We've got to, the other parts of the business have got to support that to get that successful cricket. The master plan is a huge, huge part of that. So we must push that forward.